Now, if you want an iPhone but you don't want an iPhone, then the Google Pixel might be for you. So this is Google's idea of a smartphone. So the only difference between the 5-inch Pixel and the 5.5-inch Pixel XL is that number one, it has a bigger battery at 3450 milliamps, and number two, the XL has a higher resolution display at 2560 by 1440, and 4GB of RAM lives on both, as well as only 32 and 128GB configurations for both models with no expandable storage. Now it's also available in colors black and blue. I personally like the silver thing going on. I just want to start off by saying that this Quad HD AMOLED display on the Pixel XL is gorgeous. It gets incredibly bright outdoors, it's sharp, it's full of color, it's neither too cool or warm for my taste, and it really just hits the sweet spot. Content consumption, viewing photos and videos was a pleasure, and this has quickly become one of my favorite displays as of 2016. Examining the exterior, we get that aluminum unibody and glass combo that looks pretty from the back. It's a little slippery as expected, but that glass shade adds somewhat of a grip, and Google says that this adds character to the design. But I heard somewhere that the glass improves antenna performance. I'm not entirely sure how much truth there is to that, but whatever the case may be, I'm all for the design. You'll notice that array of circles to the top left of the glass panel, starting with your 12.3 megapixel f2.0 camera, capable of 4K video with electronic image stabilization. That's followed along by these two modules for phase detection, as well as laser autofocus, which is pretty beast to have these two coexisting. You also have your noise cancelling microphone for reducing background noise, and the Pixel imprint aka fingerprint scanner right in the center. And it works just as fast as the Nexus 6P did, and it just so happens to be my preferred placement, as some of you may already know. Now unfortunately you won't find wireless charging, but to be honest, I don't even miss it. The Pixel charges just as fast as Qualcomm's quick charging, which gets you from 0 to 100 in about an hour and change, give or take. Is more than good enough for me. And they claim around 7 hours of use after only a 15-minute charge. With my heavy usage, that definitely wasn't happening for me. Now don't get me wrong, the Google Pixel lasted me well throughout my entire day, but that was after a full charge. And up front we have an 8 megapixel selfie camera with some ambient light sensors. And those top and bottom bezels did bother me at first, as they aren't exactly attractive looking, but it quickly grew on me, and I think they're more beneficial than you think. Simply because for me, there's no accidental touch input anxiety when viewing landscape content, and you have a lot more surface area to hold on to, which translates to a more comfortable viewing experience. And yes, I do agree it does look like an iPhone copycat, and I'm ashamed to say that I found myself reaching for a non-existent home button quite a few times. Now don't mistake those perfectly symmetrical grills on the bottom for stereo sound. You actually only have one speaker on the bottom, while the second one to the right is actually a microphone. Now I shook my head at this design choice. I think they could have done a lot better in my opinion, and I didn't realize this was an issue until I used my pinky to support my phone in one-handed use, and because there's only one speaker, I kept muting the sound accidentally more often than I'd like, and this is where dual speakers would have come in handy. But I gotta say, for one speaker, it does sound pretty good. There's a good amount of low end that stretches kind of thin at its highest volume, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day because I usually almost always tether my smartphone to wireless earbuds or wireless speakers. So now it would have been nice to see water resistance built in, and the Pixel's lack of it only gives the user something else to worry about before taking it near water or taking it outdoors when it's raining. Now is this a deal breaker? No, but I do miss it, as it's kind of a step backwards coming from the late Note 7 and the iPhone 7. So the Google Pixel is running Qualcomm's latest Snapdragon 821 processor, so you can expect stupid fast performance, and coupled with Android 7.1 Nougat, this is probably the smoothest smartphone experience I've ever witnessed. The transitions are so buttery and satisfying to look at. I can really just sit here and do this all day. I'm in love with the Pixel launcher, and I dig the transparency elements. I also like the idea of just sliding up to access all my apps. It's seamless, and I didn't even find the need to fill up pages or add any other folders. I do like the revamped Google Now widget. It's stylish and discreet, giving you more screen real estate to enjoy your wallpapers. And speaking of wallpapers, we get a different kind of live wallpaper this time around. You can choose between several different 3D camera movements of monuments and buildings from around the world, powered by Google Earth. And when you apply it, it comes into effect when unlocking your device or switching pages. And I think it just adds that extra element of wow So Android 7.1 Nougat brings you app shortcuts, which is basically an alternative to Apple's 3D Touch. So by tapping and holding an app, you can view more actions with Google Apps only. And I found myself using this quite often, especially for Google Maps and Google Chrome. And I just can't wait until third-party developers adopt this feature. 7.1 also brings GIFs to the stock messaging app, so you no longer need to download third-party GIF apps to message all of your cool friends using iMessage. Now on to one of the key highlights, Google Assistant. Simply put, Google Assistant learns about you and is able to pull up info from your world as opposed to the internet. So for example, I can say, "Okay Google, show me my pictures of chairs."
Here's what I found in your Google Photos.
"Okay Google, show me my pictures of cars."
I found this in your Google Photos.
You can see how intelligent Google's learning model is. It was able to depict this image as a car given the little amount of detail in only 1 second's time. And you'd be surprised what it's able to pull out of your library. You can also do goofy stuff like play games, have it recite you a poem or a riddle. "Okay Google, recite me a poem."
The brooklet came from the mountain, as sang the bard of old, running with feet of silver, over the sands of gold.
The voice model sounds a whole lot more natural, a lot closer to that of a human. It pauses when it needs to pause, and the cadence seems to be just right. It's actually a little freaky if you ask me. Now, one great use of hardware and software is a feature that we've seen on Huawei devices in the past, which is the ability to slide down your notification shade using the fingerprint scanner. So if you dive into your settings, you simply enable it via the Moves option under your device category and you're all set. You do have to give it a good swipe though, which I'm not complaining too much because that just means it's not going to accidentally pull down when scanning your finger every time. Now, some of the other moves available are things we've seen before, like double tapping the power button for the camera, or a double shake of the wrist to switch cameras. None of these which I use, by the way. I prefer software buttons any day, especially in situations when I'm snapping photos. Now, one of the camera features we get here is Smart Burst. So you just tap and hold the shutter button to capture a series of shots, and this is ideal for fast moving subjects, and this attempts to select what it thinks is the best photo out of the batch, which is then marked by a star or by a white indicator inside of Google Photos. It was very hit or miss for me in some of the small tests that I did. And I'm not really one to use burst mode in the first place, so I don't really care for it too much. I'd rather just record a video. So HDR Plus this time around is way faster, thank goodness. And to no surprise, it does a fantastic job balancing the brighter and darker parts of the images. Colors look amazing, has a nice contrast to it, not too oversaturated. Take a look at this photo of this doorknob. This was shot in dire low light conditions, and the Google Pixel still managed to produce a clean, detailed shot with very little noise. And here's another low light example. Now the Pixel's auto-focusing game is crazy fast thanks to both modules, phase detection and laser autofocus. It makes focusing subjects effortless, and this just means that it's prepared for a variety of different lighting scenarios, making this one of the very few smartphones with auto-focusing bragging rights. Now what we also get in the camera software is called Lens Blur, that's comparable to the iPhone 7 Plus's portrait mode. Man, it's produced some insane DSLR-like photos, some of which you probably wouldn't believe came from the Google Pixel. It took very little effort on my part as the user. Now 4K video stabilization also did a great job during handheld shots. You do get unlimited backup of photos and videos at its original quality as a bonus for buying the Google Pixel, but only for photos and videos uploaded directly from the Pixel. And to be clear, it doesn't upgrade your Google Photos account. You're still limited to the free 15GB storage cap when uploading original size content to Google Photos from other devices. I hope that kind of makes sense. I think more people need to know about this phone and, get the word out there. I guess my only complaints would be the stuff that I mentioned earlier, plus the fact that it might be too simple for some people. Anyway, so the base model for the Google Pixel retails for $649. And the base model for the Pixel XL retails for $769. And I'll go ahead and drop a link down below in the description in case any of you guys happen to be interested. Go ahead and drop those comments down below and let me know what are your thoughts on Google's first smartphone, the Google Pixel. Now, if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on some awesome tech videos. As always, I want to thank each and every one of you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.